Reasons why is because we're perhaps already near that full employment mark that Ali mentioned. In order to get even more jobs, to put more Americans to work, to kind of move the needle in that direction back towards positive momentum, you got to say whether or not there is any chance that corporations, because of a tax cut or because of anything else, will end up hiring more people. Now, that's a big if, right? We don't know if that's going to happen. Oftentimes, companies use better profits and just return them to shareholders, maybe don't invest in their property, plant, and equipment or hire more people. But that's one of the big ifs, and that's the reason why things are going the way they are right now.
Let's talk about, so, you know, when the president was running, he kept on using these remarkable numbers of the number of people who are unemployed. But, you know, generally we accept the numbers that we're given. We believe we're at the unemployment rate that we're at, 4.1%. However, 4.1% doesn't mean that 95.9% of people are employed. That's not actually the case. We have various measures of this, and if you consider underemployment, people who are in part-time jobs, jobs without benefits and things like this, you get to something called the U6 number, and that's 8%.
I'm obsessed with this number because when you talk about corporate profitability, corporations today don't say regulation is their biggest problem. They say it's labor costs. And corporate America has figured out, how do I pay my employee the least? How do I give them the lowest amount of numbers? If you talk to somebody who's working at Whole Foods or Target, they might say to you, I can't get enough hours. Right. They limit the amount of hours I can work, so I can't get all those benefits and I can't work enough hours to make ends meet. So to say these numbers look so good, they're not the numbers of high-paying jobs or full-time jobs.
No, and like you mentioned, you're talking about the U6 unemployment rate. This is the, like you said, the underemployment side of things. This is for people out there who aren't necessarily unemployed, but are working, say, 1, 2, 3, or 4 multiple part-time jobs, or not the jobs that they think they could be working, and that's the reason why they're considered underemployed. The 8% mark is true. This is a measure that a lot of people look at because it explains the plight of many Americans out there, millions of them, that the economy may be looking good in some respects, but it's not translating into better jobs for a lot of folks out there. I would point this out. Over the course, since the financial crisis really ended, that trend in underemployment has been moving lower.
Correct.
And for those people out there, I mean, it doesn't even matter which age demographic you are. It doesn't matter what cultural background you have. If you look at the charts, and I tweeted one out earlier today from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, just showing age demographic, race demographic, generally speaking, it's all been lower. So while the trends are in place, it's not to say that we're slighting all the millions of Americans out there who can't find the work that they want, but the economy is slowly improving. The big question now is whether or not it can continue on that improving path, or what it's going to take to get there.
Arguably, the intractable problem right now, the intractable problem 8 years ago was that there are too many people without work. There wasn't enough demand. There wasn't enough work for them. The intractable problem right now is we have about 6 million open jobs for which employers have trouble filling because they can't find qualified people. And we have a similar number of people who have about no chance of getting employed because they're in the manufacturing sector or they're coal miners or things like that. They're in the wrong place geographically and they're in the wrong place from a training perspective. So it's a different problem we have to address today than we did, say, 8 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. The way that you look at things right now, the employment situation is going to be about whether or not there actually can be some kind of a jump start to this. I don't know, and to be honest, I don't know if it's going to be this tax legislation that's being proposed out there. I don't know if it's going to be some big infrastructure or hypothetical infrastructure plan. But overall, we're talking about a time in the economic recovery when being that close to full employment means that there are maybe fewer jobs out there, right? So this idea that you could be this late stage, the next step that you'd want to see, guys, is those average hourly earnings increase.
Correct.
If you've got to, so if we are near that full employment mark, if we do see wages start to tick higher, that could be the real sign that people are actually feeling a little bit better about their financial situation.
It's a really important point.
If we are at full employment is when we have to take a close look at that portion of America that is left out of the economy.
100%.
And that's when we have to look at structural issues. Workforce participation is something we need to focus on. For example, the huge portions of our society who can't go back to work, parents, for example. We talk all about maternity and paternity care. there's a lot more than after you have, than the 12 weeks after you have a baby. Many people, mostly women, are not going back to work because there isn't adequate and affordable child care programs in this country. There are scores of people in your own community, even though you might have a great job, who simply say, in the industry that I'm in what my expertise is, I cannot afford to go back to work because in the United States there are not adequate programs that can care for your children so you can go to work.
Yeah, and the other thing is when we talk about it being near full employment, we have to remember that to somebody who is a coal miner out there, they're looking at us and saying, what do you mean full employment? My entire town is unemployed. Everybody around me is unemployed.
And it is those full employment numbers that led to the rise of the Trump voter, that forgotten voter who said, stop saying the economy is doing so well, it's forgotten me. So as we tout these great numbers and tout the great stock market, we must look at the portions of this economy that aren't benefiting, figure out why, and address it.
Dom, thanks a million. Good to see you.
You got it, guys.
Dominic Chu. All right.